Hello, and welcome to the Hollywood Outsider special WandaVision AfterHO. Today we will be talking all about the WandaVision finale, what it means for this show, and also what it could mean for the MCU. These will be in the feed typically every Monday after a new episode, but this one will be up a little bit earlier than that. However, if you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider, you get early access to the WandaVision episodes, which is ending, so you'll get early access to other shows we do, plus additional bonus content. Now let's get on with the show. My name is Amanda Sink, and today I'm joined by my fellow ho, Aaron Peterson.
I'm back!
You back!
I'm back!
You made good on your word.
I am keeping good on my word. I feel bad for Vinny, though, because he's just like, man, I've been driving this train. I don't understand what this guy's doing back, but here I am.
And Vinny Schwartz.
Howdy.
Oh, you decided to get rid of the second howdy this week?
Yeah, I'm just my heart's not in it.
Oh.
I didn't win $10.
Oh,
everything's ruined.
What was the bet?
It was all for naught. I just had a crazy prediction for who Mephisto would be, but didn't pan out, surprisingly.
Who was your prediction? I don't remember. Who's your prediction?
Robert E. Grant.
Oh.
I had a whole thing about how I went down this crazy rabbit hole because he's in the Loki show for all 6 episodes and we don't know who he is. And Paul Bettany, the prolific troll, apparently, just threw me through a loop saying he wanted to really work with this certain actor in this episode and found out who that was. And I got to give it to him. He really just threw me off.
Because he was talking about himself.
Spoilers. But yeah.
We're full on spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whew. Couldn't believe Wolverine showed up. It was weird.
Right? It's crazy to make Howard the Duck the big bad for this phase, but hey, they went for it.
I would be all for it if Howard the Duck showed up. That would actually fit this series, I think, at this point.
That would be insane. Can you imagine Howard the Duck with the newly reformed Infinity Gauntlet? But
this
now there's
sounds
2
awful.
of them.
I'm not on board with this.
About.
So this is episode 9, the series finale, written by Jack Schaefer and directed by Matt Shakman. The events of WandaVision come to a head, and the destinies of all who took part are determined. Wanda faces a final showdown against the person who has infiltrated her creation, while Monica and Jimmy fight to protect her as the series closes and Wanda's illusions begin to unravel. So let's talk about this series as a whole. Now that we're at our conclusion, apparently not getting a 10th episode. I don't know, whatever. But what do you guys think of it?
I think it's ridiculous that people keep throwing out every theory that people had didn't come true. And I love that. I love that. I love when people are so determined that they're right that now they have to finally accept that they can't say they're right. That makes me smile.
I was very disappointed, and none of my theories really, the big ones didn't come true. There's still potential for them to happen, just not in the show.
Yeah, we had a lot of similar theories, with other fans, people on the internet, some of our own. For the most part, a lot of them just didn't really go our way, hence me not making $10. That's the one that just stings the most.
I honestly wasn't horribly surprised by anything. I really felt like, okay, so pretty much most of what I thought was going to happen, and not because I just wasn't overthinking it, I guess. Like, I wasn't diehard invested into what's going to happen. So I didn't have all of these maniacal theories running through like I normally would. I was just kind of enjoying the show and seeing where it went. I figured it was Wanda, actually, I didn't figure Agatha from my initial thoughts. I figured them because Vinny, and when I was here for the first episode, brought up how Agatha Harkness and and kind of her position in the comics. I'm like, oh, well, she's going to be ultimately the villain, I think. And then from that point forward, I just kind of jumped on that, and that's where I was.
Well, you nailed that one.
No, you nailed that one. I just stole it and made it my own vision.
Well, see what you did there.
I'm going to have a lot of those.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure okay, Director Hayward.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe he got one in there. Like, oh, I already don't like you. Stop.
Wow.
But yeah, that wasn't too bad. I'm definitely in the camp where, yeah, a lot of stuff that I came up with didn't come true, but overall, I still enjoyed the show. Just because what I envisioned didn't come true doesn't mean it's a bad show. I know a lot of people are disappointed and already ragging on it. I've already seen it on the internet, but it wasn't a bad show. I don't know why you're going to go ahead and discredit the whole show because the ending didn't match what you thought.
Two things. I want to add to that. I want to jump on that. Two things. One, Paul Bettany and his cameo nonsense affected the internet. He stated that there's a cameo that rivaled Luke Skywalker and an actor he always wanted to work with. And I just want to say, I think looking back now, he's probably speaking about himself.
Where were you for this conversation 3 minutes ago?
Yeah, it's what we mentioned because he's just troll extraordinaire.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I'm agreeing with that. That's one thing.
Sorry.
I'm concurring.
Okay.
I love the troll. I think he's a fantastic troll and good for him. We need more of that. It's just fun to play with the internet, although they didn't respond to that. And then, of course, everybody wanted that super jacked up movie cameo that we didn't really get. That's what people were mad about. They wanted Quicksilver to be a Pietro instead of the boner, and they wanted the super maxed up movie cameo, which we didn't get.
Yeah,
I'm actually happy we didn't have an Avengers big thing crossed over.
I didn't need all that either.
This was supposed to be about Wanda and her grief and the level of isolation she feels emotionally. And for her to just be like, okay, let me bring in all of these other people, that's just not what she would do. And it's not what the show should have been about. And so I'm glad they didn't take that direction. As a big Scarlet Witch fan, I appreciated how much they invested in her character in this series and how much comic book fans are kind of the worst, where they always want everything should be like the comics. And now we have a time where they actually do pull a lot from the comics. They didn't necessarily retcon things. They just found their own loopholes to make the comic stuff happen in an established MCU world. But I was just really, really happy with that because I always wanted her to get some big spotlight and show the level of power. And she's a flawed character as a human because her emotions can be manipulated so easily when she's vulnerable. And that's what controls her powers to some degree. And so it makes for a really interesting drama, if you will. So,
you know what I found was really funny is I knew she was the Scarlet Witch, but it wasn't a comic I ever read, so I didn't really know the comics at all. And I've just always called her the Scarlet Witch. I had no idea in my Marvel Cinematic Universe brain that she hadn't actually technically become the Scarlet Witch. She was just Wanda Maximoff. So when it was like the last episode, when they said, you're the Scarlet Witch, and people on the internet were like, oh, she's the Scarlet Witch. I'm like, who didn't know that? I don't understand. Now I understand it better.
I mean, they should have known. I don't understand how that's a big reveal other than like that's.
It seemed like it.
I mean, even Hayward's like, what's her name? It's just Wanda. Oh, she doesn't have one of those funny nicknames? Okay, whatever. Moving on. That was like in episode 1 or 2.
I didn't know that she hadn't quite become as powerful as she could be. Like she's now understanding the full abilities that she has,
right? Which
I get now.
Yeah, and we slowly got more and more of her powers throughout the show until finally she's like, okay, yeah, no, I'm the Scarlet Witch.
Hell yeah, I'm the Scarlet Witch.
Sorry, Brie Larson, you are incorrect. You are not
she's
the
super
strongest
incorrect.
Avenger.
Yeah,
I'm not even like a Brie Larson Captain Marvel hater. Like I thought the movie was fine, but yeah, no, sorry, not close. You can,
and also, can the internet be a little nicer to her? Because she was making a joke and everybody took it so seriously. Like,
well, as you said earlier, comic fans can be the worst.
And
although I will say
depends.
not worse than Star Wars fans. I can say that.
Yes, that's true.
But anyways,
well, let's get into what the hex is going on. We're going to discuss, our overall thoughts on the different characters, the main plot points, and break those things down. So let's start with the characters and their fate in the MCU by talking about our favorite, Wanda Maximoff. Well, my favorite. We already know now that she is the Scarlet Witch. She's accepted her power. I think Elizabeth Olsen was amazing. She really took her acting to another level, especially with this character. We've seen her really heightened emotions before, especially in Age of Ultron and in Avengers, but this is kind of where we get to see a wide array of her emotions because she really connected with the different sitcoms and those portrayals, her grief, her sorrow, her happiness, her love, everything in between. I absolutely loved her, and I cannot think of anybody who could play the Scarlet Witch better now that I've seen her really fully flesh it out.
Well, as you said, she finally got her own spotlight. Like, they directed the focus onto her, and not only her character, but the actress got to really show us what they were and what they could do. So it definitely turned out a good product.
What I took away from her performance here, by the time the series was done, which she was phenomenal. She covered so many bases during the course of the 9 episodes, more than anybody else on the show, honestly. I know people love Bettany, but I think Olsen just blew him away. Nothing against him. But all I kept thinking of, because I have a very cynical mind in some respects, is I kept thinking about Mary-Kate and Ashley just sitting at home. Their whole lives, everybody's got that sibling rivalry thing, and their whole lives, they've been the Olsen twins. They've been the Olsen members of the family. And, Elizabeth has been carving her own niche for sure. And now they're officially the sisters of Elizabeth Olsen.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned.
That is true.
Somewhere that third Hemsworth is just sitting there like, yeah. Now's my time.
My time is coming. We don't even know his name. He's just the third Hemsworth.
I'm going to spin off from this Westworld. My small little role is going to break out. I can feel it. No, but I'm actually glad that they decided to break apart and do this show and give her a heftier spotlight, because for a while I was never really that impressed with not so much the performance, but the character itself. And I never really felt like she got her own arc until probably the final Avengers movie, Endgame. But I just felt like, she's great, I guess, but I haven't really seen anything that impressed me. Well, now I have, and I'm glad they fleshed it out because it's a character. Now I love the character, even though I don't love the whole dynamic with Vision, which I'll talk about in a minute. I do love the character of Scarlet Witch, and it's fantastic to see a character that I can get behind. Because I feel like Marvel doesn't have many godlike characters in their universe right now. Now we have one. I just feel like I can get behind it because I was never really a big fan of Captain Marvel. I'm a big fan of Scarlet Witch.
Oh, this warms my heart to hear.
Yeah.
And then just speaking about the character from her arc from the beginning to the end, I think that's what makes the ending good for me. Now that we didn't get like all the craziness that everyone was expecting, it was still a good ending because we get to see Wanda work through and accept what's happened to her and make that part of her, like Monica did with her mother, and take that mantle of Scarlet Witch as well, also accepting that as part of her life.
And do you get the vibe at the end, the stinger, the post stinger? Is it too early to talk about that, Amanda? I don't want to.
No, that's fine.
Jump it out.
Yeah, we can chat about it.
Do you get the vibe that she's training, like that's her training?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
she is. She's reenacting what Doctor Strange did when he was getting caught up on his studies, if you will. Because one of the things Agatha tells her is you lack knowledge. You have power, but you lack knowledge. And so while she knows there's this whole chapter devoted to her in the Darkhold, which we'll talk about later, but now she's able to really study up on it, and she has her floating, I don't know what the right word is, but like fake self doing all of this studying for her while she's enjoying a cup of coffee. And I think we're really going to start to see the true, not just power, but like the potential and danger of Scarlet Witch because of how powerful she is. It's mentioned in this episode that she's more powerful than the Sorcerer and
Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, Stephen Strange isn't fully there yet, but that one's dead. She's still power than both of them, so.
He did get a name check in this episode. You heard that, right? Sorcerer Supreme got mentioned.
And it just shows how quick she picks up on these things. I mean, Agatha points out that she could do all kinds of crazy magic, miles away, just without a thought, on autopilot. Like, she's doing magic that took Agatha years of intense study, just like it's nothing. And you see she picked up Agatha's rune trick after just seeing them one time in the culmination of their fight. And now she's astral projecting and studying the Darkhold while doing other things. Like, her power is rapidly progressing.
I really love that. I think it's pretty fantastic. And it sucks for Agatha.
And just from like a lady perspective, can I say how much
lady perspective?
Yes, like as a woman,
All
seeing a character that is super, super, super powerful, but she's not full of herself. Like, I feel kind of bad saying this, but Captain Marvel's like, the character, not Brie Larson, is kind of like, yeah, I know I'm powerful. Scarlet Witch was one that was so powerful she didn't even know her own potential, and now she's starting to, she really went through the humanity piece with her grief and her sorrow, and I don't think anything good's really ever happened to her that lasted. Maybe Vision will stick around, so she does have something good, but she is a really great, flawed character for women to look up to, because I don't need my female superheroes to be perfect. Like, I feel like Wonder Woman is perfect.
Yeah, she is. She is.
But I like that I have a character that I can see almost myself in, if you will. Obviously, I don't have chaos magic, but as a woman, or for like little girls, they can look up and say, bad things can happen, but I still have the power to overcome them and to do great things and be better. And I am incredible, or wowing other people. And so I really appreciated that they gave a spotlight to a female superhero in the Marvel world, because it's one thing that I've always noticed has been lacking. Like, you can't even get merch, even for Black Widow. Like, that stuff's hard to find. They don't come out with it like they do for Iron Man or Captain America or things like that. But now we have a character that it's dominating the audiences. So,
you know what character you can't get? Cara Dune. Can't find any of those bad boys.
Does that make those collector's items?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. No, I love Scarlet Witch. I think they've done a great job with making the character much more required in the MCU. Like, I would want a movie at this point. I really want a Scarlet Witch movie far more than I want a Captain Marvel 2. So,
well, let's talk about the visions, the Hex and the White Vision.
Yeah. So, okay. So the Hex version of Vision is basically the Vision we know, but it's based off of memory. And then we have the White Vision, which is essentially what government's recreation of such. And so we get this giant battle where they come, and I really dug this because it feels like a true to form Vision fight where they have some knockdown, drag out action sequences, sure, that actually look like something you'd see on the big screen, which was pretty impressive. Same with Scarlet versus Agatha. And then they actually have a coming to Jesus meeting where they debate intellectual philosophies. And I thought that was fantastic. I'm like, are we really debating philosophies just hovering around the ground for a few minutes? We sure are. Go Marvel. I like this. And then he finds his own humanity by relaying the memories through data to the new Vision, which means most likely that White Vision is going to be the new version of Vision, and probably will find Wanda again with all of the memories intact. So a version of him continues to live on. That is one aspect of this whole series where I got very kind of tired. Die already. Just die already at some point. I feel like Vision has died 2 or 3 times now, and it's time to let him go. Personally. But they won't, because White Vision is going to be around for a while. So it was an interesting dynamic. I really, really dug that. And I did enjoy and was a little warm to when he had to leave and she had to let him go. That was a very warm moment. But I will say, that's the second time we've had to deal with that. It's not going to work a third time. Her letting Vision go, Vision dying, and her having to deal with it.
I completely agree. I think it's at this point where we already kind of pushed the envelope a little bit to see if audiences would accept it. And I realize it's only happening because Scarlet Witch has so much power that she would probably do anything possible to keep bringing him back. But at the same time, they could have let him die, and then she could have just gone about her life because she had accepted it. She had finally accepted it. She knew this was the best thing to do. But I did really, really love that philosophical lecture debate sort of thing that they had going on. Like they're just talking, chatting philosophy over a cup of coffee, just hanging out while the rest of the world is about to crumble.
And I don't think they're going to keep rehashing that. Because back to the whole philosophy thing, Theseus's boat, is it still the original boat, or is this still Vision if you change things? This is Vision's body, but technically it doesn't have his soul.
Yeah,
The Hex
It
Vision,
seems
like,
like it got him, though.
well,
Yeah,
the Hex
he
Vision,
transferred it.
the Hex Vision unlocked memories, but this Vision didn't technically. Those aren't technically his. It's really weird and convoluted, but to me, this is like a whole brand new life form that you just kind of gave a firmware update to. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did those things."
Well, firmware and a data transfer. I mean, he is a robot when it comes down to it. And they did the little thing where his Mind Stone became yellow, and then it reverted back to the white.
Right.
So I do feel like he transferred his soul, or portion of his soul, to White Vision. So he will, in one way or another, live on.
And that's why his color changed too, I think, because it gave humanity into his eyes. They were trying to show you that he's not the same. He's more Vision that Wanda knows. And the Hex Vision had pieces of the Mind Stone's powers in him because it was a part of Wanda, which was like a huge thing, is that she has that experiment with Hydra. She has actual pieces of that in her. And so she was able to, as we saw when she created it out of that yellow. And he transferred that to White Vision, was my understanding. So prior to that moment, very different. But then after that moment, if it's the same body, you have the memories, and you now have the soul and compassion, are you not the same person?
And see, I don't think he has that same soul technically. I think the Hex
like
Vision
it's a
just
remastering of the soul.
Yeah, I guess. Like,
reskinned.
If anything, he'll probably be more like Age of Ultron Vision. Like, he got reset to a checkpoint, and he is going to have a different take on things now. Like, he's going to do things slightly differently, because the Vision from that point to when he dies has this journey of becoming more human. And so this new Vision's going to have to do that, but he's probably going to do things in his own way. So I think we're going to have some kind of moment in the future with him and Wanda, but I don't think there's going to be the same connection because, like Amanda said, Wanda finally has let him go.
Yes, but I also, at least the Wanda in the comics, she loves Vision so much that she could probably become, she could probably be like, oh, okay, he's back. Okay, I'll take it. Like, she saw that you had that moment even in the show where she was like, wait a second, are you real? Because I'll keep you,
Right, but I mean, the MCU is it's its own thing. It takes inspiration from the source material, but then they do their own thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this show was Wanda's journey of bottling up her grief and emotions and hiding away and keeping it hidden, and then finally facing it, absorbing it, and then releasing it. Part of that is accepting that Vision's gone, or her Vision's gone, and she needs to move on.
Speaking of moving on, nice segue.
Okay.
He dissolves at the end, and we see him dissolve, so we know that version of the Vision is gone. Meanwhile, White Vision, with all of his memories and probably his soul, which we debate about, who has the soul at this point, is out there flying around somewhere. But the kids, we didn't see them dissolve, and we kind of hear them. I think that's when we heard say, help me at the very, very end.
Yeah.
So do we think the kids are still out there somewhere, or in another dimension?
I think it's like a multiverse sort of thing.
I think they're either in a different, like, she's going through different realities, or we didn't get Mephisto now, but we'll get Mephisto eventually, and he's like got their souls, or what fragments make up them, and she's going to try to find a way to get them back.
And that leads into Doctor Strange too.
Yep.
Right.
Because that's one thing that we didn't get conclusion to, is how they were created. Because Wanda was surprised by them And we assume that she maybe just did it on her own because there were certain moments that did surprise her. But it's also still possible that Mephisto, because in the comics, the kids are created from pieces of him, that his connection is still there with the kids. And so if they're living on in another reality, in another dimension or whatever it is, you know, they could be existing and living on with those fragments of Mephisto, which keeps them alive because then they're not created just from hex magic.
Or if not Mephisto, actually someone older and more powerful, which I don't know if you want to talk about now or...
I mean, just go for it. Screw a format.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Well, we get confirmation that magical book is actually the Darkhold, which I didn't think so at first just because the design was different, but things like that happen in different productions, so...
Different from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., to clarify.
Yeah.
Which makes that show not canon at this point.
It's
good,
canon.
I ain't watching it.
It's still
not
canon.
If the book is completely different, it can't be canon.
I mean, it's a magical book. I imagine it can change. I'm not going to fault them for that.
That show's canon, but thankfully they're making sure I don't have to watch it, and that's all I care about.
Oh, come on, man!
I watched the first season. I'll never watch another episode.
Oof,
I'm good.
Anyways, so we have the Darkhold, which is a series of spells bound in an invincible dark tome made by an elder god named Cthon from forever ago, to put it lightly. And he left this as a conduit for him to have connection to our reality from his reality. And in the comics, he actually, before he gets banished a second time, he imbues some chaos magic, because he is the elder god of chaos, into Wanda, because her mother traveled to this crazy evil mountain, gave birth to her and her brother, and he imbued her with power, and it's a whole thing. Go read comics, kids. They're fun. And so I think maybe that's the big setup. Mephisto's small potatoes. Mephisto's like...
Compared to him, yeah.
Mephisto's like Ironmonger, and Chthon's like Mega Thanos.
Well, maybe they're building to the another big bad. I mean, they need another long arc for that. For maybe Mephisto first, and then we'll move on to that guy.
Possibly.
Well, and if that's true, Wanda using her magic and going through the realities, like those different dimensions, it opens up the potential for him to essentially portal into this reality that she's existing in. And that's kind of what his goal is, because her magic is tied to him. And so using this book and using part of, I don't know, the pieces of him with chaos magic, he has the potential to just sneak on in. So we'll see.
And then we have the ever wonderful, at least I think she is, Agatha Harkness, because she's played by the ever wonderful Kathryn Hahn, who we're going to get more of. I don't know when, but she's still around. So I'm excited for that.
Trapped in the crazy neighbor lady wandering around America's countryside or something.
Spouting off really, really white colloquialisms. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, neighbor.
Okie dokie, artichoke.
Look, I don't need you to make fun of that phrase because I use it all the time.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we get to see her in full form, in just the whole look. The look, the powers, her lines, her delivery, everything about her in this show is wonderful. I loved all of it. She just really delivers on the character, and the energy she brings is just so fun to watch. As she's battling Wanda, obviously, so she's our antagonist. She's the quote-unquote bad person, but really she's doing this for her own gains. You know, she wants that power, but also she's trying to stop something worse from happening. Like, she tells Wanda, you're way too powerful. You don't even know what you're messing with. Why don't you just go ahead and give me the power? And we see her actually turn back Wanda throughout most of the show. Like, she's besting her most of the time. Except for one time we get to see Wanda's Buick thrown at her. And a nice little nod to Wizard of Oz as she sees her boots poking out from under there.
Yeah,
the Buick makes a return.
I like that.
See, if she had an Audi, I don't think it would have made the same impact. Those things are a little bit lighter, a little more aerodynamic.
It's true.
I mean, surely she could afford it, though. That's my point.
Right? But see, it was all set up.
Can we agree, or maybe agree to disagree? I don't think Agatha Harkness was much different than Wanda here in terms of did some bad stuff. Because Wanda basically kidnapped all those people.
Yeah, which she brings up, like, these people aren't saying what I want them to. They're saying what they want to because I freed them, and this is how they're reacting. Like,
but she
says,
didn't know.
Heroes don't torture people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying
but
that.
She did kind of know. Like, when she knew, she was still like, yeah, but I like the town, and it's my town.
No, I mean,
You
she
guys
had a
seem
moment.
really
She had
happy.
to decide between her family, and this is a woman who's been struck with grief over and over and over and over again. Like, everybody
Yeah,
she
I get
loves
the defense.
dies.
I get the defense, but you also got to look at, she still did it. I mean,
Yeah.
she still did a pretty horrible thing.
And at
Whether
first
She did,
intended
and I'm
to or
not saying that, but I'm saying there is a difference between her and Agatha. Agatha is intentional with her power-hungry motives, and that's what she's doing it for. And she doesn't care who gets in her way. She will take everything from you, including your entire life. Like, she sucks the life out of her own mother because she wants her power. Wanda is not a full hero by any means, but she's also not so self-absorbed that everything she does is for her own benefit. I mean, she does in some capacity, but she didn't realize the level of harm that it was having on people. And when she did, she sacrificed everything that she loved and cared for. She basically killed her kids and her husband, if you will.
So she's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't think it's fair to call her a hero because Captain America would have stayed and faced the responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Yeah.
Captain America literally sacrificed himself multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before
And
putting
unlike
anyone
Vision-
else before himself.
Unlike Vision, I'm always welcome for him to come back.
Well, with multiverses, we can probably get him back. Just not Chris Evans.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
John Krasinski.
I do have a question, though, about Agatha, though. Do you guys think, because part of the relationship between Agatha and Wanda in the comics is that Agatha is a mentor to her and they become friends.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's where their relationship will go in the future? Or do you think they'll continue to keep these two characters up against each other, if you will?
Both.
Yeah, I think in Doctor Strange, we're going to see her kind of go back. Either her, Doctor Strange, or like someone who knows about her is going to go find her, restore her, and be like, hey, stuff's bad. We need all hands on deck here. You got some background with this. How about you lend a hand?
Yeah.
And then she'll
I
try
can
to
see
manipulate the situation to her benefit
that. Yeah.
at some point. And there was some debate on the internet. How is she still in the wacky neighbor if they got rid of the neighborhood? She, in her head, she only fixed her head. So
Right,
it's just
right.
wherever she's at. It's not,
Yeah.
the actual location doesn't matter. It's just the person
Right.
that's trapped.
Yeah, everyone else
Yeah.
is going to be back to normal. She's the only one who's going to be back in sitcom world, which is going to be great.
I dug it. I really dug it. And I think it's great that Catherine Hahn had a #1 single or something. And
Right?
Hey, that song is my jam.
I don't get that. I mean, it's catchy, sure, but I'm not going to listen to it on the old Spotify while I'm going for a run.
I
But
downloaded
hey,
the trap remix.
I was going to say the
I'm glad
remix
fans
is
dig
just
it.
killing it.
Oh my God.
It's so good. But we should mention how much, I mean, I know Vinny mentioned it, but Catherine Hahn was pretty incredible here. Like, I knew she was talented, but I always felt like her performance was it was just the same. It was the same type of character all the time.
Mhm.
And here we really got to see different sides of her. We got to see her be real bad. We got to see her be manipulative. We got to see her be really nice and sweet and charming and then just really funny. I feel like we got a full scope of her talents, and I just never fully appreciated Catherine Hahn as much as I did in this series.
Shame on
I
you.
was surprised, honestly. The last 2 episodes, I was pleasantly surprised that she held her own because she did shift quite a bit from. I thought she was going to be Catherine Hahn, which is very often almost a caricature, which I love that caricature, but it is a caricature. I think she really created a full character by the end of it, and in the last 2 episodes especially, I really thought she delivered multiple angles, including the suffering at the beginning of the last episode, her actual battle with Wanda and trying to make sense to her. I mean, there's a lot of different emotions at play, and I thought she really did much better than I thought she was going to. So I was impressed.
Well, then we have our other big, she's pretty much a hero so at this point. She's not done anything wrong, and that's Monica Rambeau. And now she is Photon or Spectrum or whatever her character is going to be called. We don't really have a name established for her in the MCU yet, but she is definitely established. She had a really great arc where she was coming in after the blip and trying to do some good deeds and, I don't know, make good on her mom's name and stay as a hero. But she was also the one that comforted Wanda and tried to talk reason into her and believed that she was still a good person. And between her determination, voices from Captain Marvel and her mom in her head, and persevering through, she gets her own powers. And now she's a super awesome superhero.
I'm a big fan. Tiona Paris, I thought, knocked this one out of the park. I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't know what they were going to do with Monica Rambeau and why I should care. And they did a wonderful job, and they really used that whole loss of her mom to kind of correlate what Wanda was going through and trying to, basically this whole series is about grief. And she did a nice job of trying to make it more empathetic to what she was going through and a character that could relate. So I really enjoyed what she did.
I love when she said, if I had powers like yours, I'd bring my mom back too.
Yeah, because she got her own little, mini arc where she worked through her own grief, literally powering through it and finding strength in that, literally. And now she's got crazy powers, and we're going to see more of her character as well, which is also super exciting, I think.
And she got that because of Wanda, right?
Yeah, a couple trips through the hex. It mixed up her molecules. Now she's got crazy powers.
If I get the opportunity to walk through a couple hex walls, I'm doing it because I want to see if I can get some stuff.
You're going to roll them dice. They might not all be as cool as hers.
Well, and it's not a guarantee you're going to survive either, or that she's going to let you in through those hex walls. Like, Monica and Wanda had some sort of a connection, and she didn't see her as a threat to her, so she let her in. That's why nobody else could really get through it, and they weren't trying to risk it, but she always could. And that speaks to, I think, her character and who she is. And Paris did a really great job with her performance of Monica and showing us she was like a really soft light in a very otherwise dark show.
No risk it, no biscuit. And then we move to Pietro Maximoff, or as I like to call him, Ralph Boner.
Boner.
I know that there are probably a lot of fans that are probably angry that he's not Pietro Maximoff, but I thought this was really an interesting twist. I thought it was fun, a very fun way to get Evan Peters into the show without changing anything with the characters, with actually we with the whole Fox merger and everything. I just thought that was a very fun nod to the fandom. And hey, we heard you guys like this guy. We get it. We can't make him Quicksilver because that guy died. But what we can do is throw you a little boner.
Oh my.
Yeah, that happened. Enjoy it. Soak it in. Soak it in.
No, I refuse. I don't know. I mean, I didn't expect him to be anything crazy, but at the same time, it's so weird that they take someone who was already the same character, just in a different franchise, present him as the one in your franchise, and be like, psych, he's just some dude. It's just so bizarre to me. I mean, I guess I get it, but still so bizarre.
The bizarre part to me is that Wanda believed it to be her brother, that she believed it to be Pietro. And up until that point, I thought maybe it was easier to convince because he is Pietro in one sector of reality, one strain. And so maybe just that multiverse thing is popping up, and that was the glimpse into it. And I kind of hoped that's what it was, just because I thought that would be really creative and playful. I don't know how I feel about building this character up to be something like that. Would have been a great tie for the mutants. and bringing that in here. And with that possibility, not necessarily gone, but the confirmation of it not there, I don't know. It's a little, okay, so you just thought it was funny? Ha ha ha,
I thought it was
boner?
fair. I thought it was fair, minus the boner thing. Way wrong choice. Just, there's nothing about that makes sense to me. That's a bad choice.
It's goofy. But yeah, I still think the snap, that's what's going to make the mutants. They got snapped and unsnapped. Now they got gamma radiation messing with their jam.
Oh, snap.
Speaking of hypothetical characters, Tommy and Billy. I actually enjoy, like, most of the time kid actors, they're kind of whatever, but these kids did a pretty alright job.
Yeah, they did.
The characters themselves are really cool. Like I said before, I really like Wiccan as a character. The design, his powers, the stories have always been pretty cool to read. So I'd like to see them in the future. Hopefully we do. Hopefully it doesn't destroy everything when we do. But, and like Amanda said, it's just really weird that they kind of came from nowhere. At least when Wanda made Vision, she kind of had that fragment of the soul gem within her, which helped make Vision's soul, and then she just crafted a body around that. With these kids, she just gave birth to them naturally. So it just makes more questions about how exactly they came to be. Again, so many questions.
I don't need more of the kids. I like them. I like them for the show. I'm good with them being gone. I don't need Marvel babies or anything.
Well, Marvel babies are coming because, yeah, I think they've already hinted at a Young Avengers movie, show, something. So,
well, there's money. They're gonna find it, but I don't really need it. But I think they're going to be a part of it because based on the very end, I think they're going to be back.
Yeah, I don't know that I need more of that from my perspective. I think Julian Hillard and Jet Klein are the kids actors. I think they did a fine job. I like that they gave more to these characters than, like, people didn't even know about them that much, and they certainly didn't have a lot of agency or life to him. Like, he was just kind of blah. But I also just don't care that much. I only cared because Wanda cared, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, it does.
Yeah, I can definitely get that. And if they do come back in the future, I do want to see them aged up a little bit, more powerful, just so we can get more from the characters. And I definitely don't need to see them in every movie that when they finally do show up. But, you know, like I said, I'd like to see them one more time. It'd be a cool little send-off, something.
They'll be aged up, and the quick one will be Evan Peters.
Oh, my.
And she'll be like, you look just like Boner.
Ew. Ew. That also messed up my theory about Ralph being Mephisto, which I'm still mad about. But
I mean,
like,
that
okay,
was
whatever.
a lot of people's theory.
Yeah. Well, one really good thing about this show, amongst many, is Jimmy Woo and Dr. Darcy Lewis. I, like many, want to have like an X-Files spinoff with the two of them.
Hex-Files.
They were so much fun. What?
X-Files.
The Hex-Files.
That's really clever.
That's clever.
But Jimmy Woo he showed up and I was surprised at his ability to bluff because I did not think he's kind of like a quirky character. I really didn't expect him to show up and be like, yeah, man, I already called my team in, and sneak that phone away and call and be like, hey, I need you to be here within the hour to come save us. And I felt like Dr. Darcy Lewis was a little underutilized in the finale. Like, they made her seem like she was a much bigger character in the beginning, and then by the end, they just kind of, like, fell off with her. It was very weird to me.
She got, like, one line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have fun in prison, which is so great.
It was a good line.
Yeah.
It was cute. It just felt like it was uneven how much they used the characters throughout the series.
Yeah, I thought it was really bizarre. She showed up for that, and then she didn't even stick around for the conclusion. Like, they just kind of shoot her away like, oh, she said debriefings are for losers or something like that. And they just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess she's not even going to show up for the end. That's cool, I guess. And that did disappoint me a little bit more than most things, because I legitimately thought she was going to have something cool to do. Like,
yeah,
I thought she'd get like weird powers or something. I don't know. I was expecting too much, I guess.
I think fan expectations are usually at the sum of all disappointment. I would 100% be happy with her being incremental in other projects. I don't want a whole series. I think Jimmy Woo could carry one. I think he's engaging. Darcy, I just find her kind of grating after a while. She's a great supporting role. I don't want to see her leading the whole episode. That one episode where she was predominant was grating for me. I'm
I loved it.
Probably in the minority, but sorry, that's where I'm at.
Well, Jimmy Woo's going to show up again in the Doctor Strange movie because, again, they need all the magic folks they can get.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen his powers.
Flourish.
And the flourish.
He steals a cell phone and nobody notices whatsoever.
He's been
Seriously,
really working on those card tricks,
that?
too. Those card tricks are just, how does he do it?
Yeah.
Who doesn't lock their phone? Really?
Seriously, this is 2021.
Then we go to Director Hayward. That's the next one on the list. And he...
is a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. And it's a surprise to me. I'm just kidding. It's not. But why is Captain America always wanting to help the military? Because I can tell you, in every Marvel movie, the military apparently are the enemy. Because all they're doing is things that make us as fans mad. And this guy, once again, does the same thing. And we're saved by the FBI, thank goodness. But yeah, apparently he's not great either. He's going to jail. I thought he was a good guy. Just kind of a dick, but apparently he's also a criminal.
Well, yeah. Apparently shooting kids is no big deal to him.
Yeah.
He wasted an entire clip.
Yeah, he emptied that thing. He did not care. It's like, I'll
He's
hit
like,
one
children,
of them.
what?
But they're not real. I mean, they're not real. He knew they weren't real, so.
Did he, though?
Does that count?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that he does know that because...
He just saw they had powers, and he's racist towards the meta-human community. Yeah. And he's like, yep, I'm going to cap these kids.
Gonna cap these kids.
He did go rather quickly for him. You know, now that I think about it, it probably didn't dawn on me because everybody's always getting their asses whooped in these movies, but he did try to shoot children very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it did not take much. He just stepped out and he's like, yep, this is what I'm doing today.
Obviously a guy who was babysat before. Or been disappointed in his own fatherhood. He's like, not you guys again. Bam, bam, cap, cap.
I mean, I liked the storyline of why he was doing it. Like, I didn't agree with it, but I thought it made sense.
Sure.
You know, especially, I think the way Vinny phrased it on a previous episode really resonated with me about, you know, when you're observing this as a human and you're surrounded by all of these superheroes and their powers, like, eventually that's going to impact you in some way or another.
Yeah, you want it. Give it to me.
Well, that and like it's an old trope where, you know, heroes and villains go at it and the people caught in the middle are like, well, I'm sick of this. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to find a way to stop this. I mean, that's kind of what they use to motivate Batman in the Batman vs. Superman movie. I'm not going to talk much more about that. But, you know, it's commonly used and it does kind of help flesh out his character more. So he does have his reasons. But he's still a dick. Still a huge dick.
He's a big boner.
Yeah, wasn't a fan of him. I mean, he just kind of sucked. But I guess the actor did a nice job portraying him because we believed he was... I mean, I, at least in the beginning, didn't think he was this bad. I didn't think he was like a big bad. And then by the end, I was like, oh, okay, I'm convinced. He's a jerk.
Well, military leader guy, bit of a complex against superheroes... usually going to be pretty awful. Speaking of awful, how's the town of Westview going to do after all of this? They kind of just had their lives taken over for a bit. So for the whole thing, they were conscious to an extent. Like they were aware of what was going on, but they couldn't do anything about it. They were just kind of forced to play roles in a TV show. Mm-hmm. And they're always going to remember this. And you can tell at the end, like, they hate Wanda. Like, they want nothing to do with her. It's probably going to ruin a lot of other heroes for some of them, too. Again, just superheroes misusing powers. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Screw these guys. That sucked. Like,
great. More Accords. We're going to have the Westville Accords. Westview Accords. I'm sorry. Westview Accords.
Yeah, you got Dottie, a.k.a. Sarah's just like, let me at least see my child. Like, her character's been written away to her room for how long? Like, she got to come out once for the Halloween episode, and that's it. You got the really dark moment where Mr. Miss Hart's like, if you won't let us go, just let us die. I'm like, oh, Jesus. That's
was pretty
really
morbid.
dark
Yeah.
and deep. Jesus. I didn't think we were going to go there. But yeah, Westview is definitely going to be changed. Definitely not for the better after all this.
Well, I mean, you saw the way they looked at Wanda when she was leaving with her Eminem 8 Mile look. She was like...
Yeah, hoodie, the universal symbol of grief.
Yeah, but they were all staring at her like, do we mob her now or do we wait?
And then they remember, oh yeah, she can control our minds like it's nothing. Maybe we'll just hate stare at her until she goes away.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping like David Rose would come walking around the corner. I felt like that would have been a fun little nod.
Wanda!
Ew. I really just, I love that aspect, because if they would have just done the thing where they woke up and they're just like, where am I at? What's going on? And nothing else happened. There was like no repercussions for Wanda herself. I would have actually been, it would have changed completely my view of the show. Completely.
Yeah.
That was something I was worried about. Like the whole time, I'm like, if these people get released from this whole, Stockholm syndrome and they're like all good with it and they just can't remember stuff, I'm going to be irritated because they need to remember what she did. Like she did something really horrible, even if it wasn't intentional. She still did something horrible. She locked her kid up in a cage or whatever, man. That's dark. So she needs to be aware that she did something wrong, so that it's important to her to learn how to master it. That's why I thought it was very important.
Yeah, there were definitely repercussions to her actions, and they're going to be long lasting. There are definitely consequences to her actions, even though she's a superpowered individual. And I mean, that's why they made the Sokovian Accords, to hold these people accountable. Like they dropped a whole city on where the city was. Stuff's crazy, man.
Yeah. Every time there's an accord, guess who's at the center of it? Exactly.
Oh.
This is twofer. You just keep one up in it. Next time she's taking out a whole planet.
Might
She
be a
probably
reality
could.
next time. I'm telling you, that's the other thing, is like the ending wasn't as explosive as I thought it would be.
What?
Because she worked through her grief on her own, and she accepted these things, and she wasn't forced to lose her happiness or her little paradise. So it wasn't as cataclysmic for her. So we didn't get that moment where everything was taken away, everything's bad, and then she just snaps. Instead, it's peaceful. She works through her grief somewhat normally, and then now she's going to start working on her powers, and I think the catalyst instead is going to be her using her powers.
Well, except for the lightning bolt battle in the sky.
Well, yeah.
With, heavy lights and whatnot. And then the symbols, anybody know what the symbols meant?
They're protective runes, like, because...
Okay. All right.
Again, she quick study when Agatha had her in the basement, and she had those in her basement, which also just speaks to Scarlet Witch's power, because Agatha had these in her basement, supposedly because that's the extent of her power. Like, she can control this little room, and whoever casts those specific runes is the only one who can use magic in that area.
Right.
So then Scarlet Witch cast them on the Hex and made it so she was the only one who could use magic in this entire town.
Which is brilliant.
Which is insane.
But also brilliant. I mean, when you think about it, it was like, how is she going to get out of this? How does she get by with losing her powers to Agatha?
Explain it to me. Maybe I'm confused with what you're saying. Can you explain it a little deeper?
About how this worked?
Yeah, about how she overcame, because I know there's a lot of people that are confused by it, because I've seen it on the internet. Like, how did she defeat her?
So
shaky skeleton hands.
Yeah. Well, to me, it seemed like she made it look like she was actually being defeated, even though she wasn't. Like, she was losing some of her power for sure by attacking Agatha and giving some to her. But then she was also, at the same time, there were some blasts that she used of her magic that went to the outskirts. They missed Agatha. And there was actually one moment where she looks a little crazed, like, dude, that wasn't even near my face. How did you miss me? But it was intentional, because she was trying to throw those magic blasts at the outer layers of that barrier, if you will, of the Hex. So when she's doing that, she's able to kind of attach magic to it. And that creates the spell that only allows her to use magic within it, which is one of the more basic spells that Agatha was saying, how do you not know about this stuff? Because that's how she trapped Wanda in her basement, and Wanda couldn't use her magic, is by this runes ritual. So this allowed Wanda to continue to throw magic at her, but be able to take her own magic back because she still had some left. And she sucked that away from Agatha. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if that's right. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I got from it.
Well, let's talk about some of the plot points. We've talked about some of them and even maybe some of the weaknesses.
Well, Wanda defeats Agatha, but keeps her around and sacrifices her Westview world. So she dumps old Westview and makes it back to what it was before, which was a dump. Just another burned out small town. So maybe they will be a little disappointed that their nice little happy sitcom world is destroyed. And
well, it is in Jersey.
So, but Agatha's, like we said earlier, wandered around the country and just, hello, neighbor, okie dokie. And the town is back to what it was. I felt like that was a very satisfying ending. It felt like Wanda learned a lesson. Agatha got her comeuppance, and the town got their lives back, even if they are going to be horribly messed up for some time, and they'll probably have a Netflix special about this. True crime.
The Wanda Files.
I appreciated that she won over Agatha, but that at the same time she was challenged. And she wasn't challenged because of power, she was challenged because of lack of knowledge, which was something that was reiterated time and time again. Like, she didn't even know about herself. She just knew that she had this power in it, and it happened. And I loved the way that they worked through the reveal throughout the series, where Agatha is showing her, you've had this your entire life. You've always been this. And so when it comes time to reveal her historic, if you will, Scarlet Witch prophecy, it makes sense. Everything lines up. And Marvel didn't do it in a way that retcons what they had told us in the MCU. They used that and built off of it. And I thought that was really, really smart. And I do believe that Agatha and Wanda will end up having to work together in the future, because she's learning about herself, definitely. But Agatha is smart enough to be able to help her. I hope that she becomes that mentor, because it was really, really crucial and important to Wanda's character in the comics. I would equate it, quite honestly, to Uncle Ben, if you will.
Easy killer. Easy.
I'm just saying, those characters are catalysts for those superheroes to really understand themselves and find a level of control over what they have available to them. They put it in perspective.
According to the MCU's history, then you'll never see Agatha again. Poof. Never be mentioned again. Poof.
Oh, you just had to bring up Uncle Ben.
I'm ready to leave. Sorry. Is this thing over yet? This podcast done?
Yikes. Yeah, like I said, I think we will see her again, because Wanda's definitely going to need some help reining in her powers, especially the more she uses them and the more she kind of brings about this chaos that she doesn't know about. And it was smart how they kind of brought all this to be, because in the beginning, they literally had to change her lineage of powers just because of some corporate BS. I'm like, well, we're just going to sidestep that by changing a few things, and then came back around to where they could do those things. Like, they just folded it back in. So it'd be kind of neat to see where we go from there. But then we have Wanda finally accepting her role as the Scarlet Witch. As we talked about last episode, it is actually a role. It's something that was passed, at least in the comics, it was passed down. Her mother and her mother's father were the Scarlet Witch and Warlock, respectively. So now she's the Scarlet Witch. But we have a slight change in the MCU where it was prophecy, like the Scarlet Witch would come about someday and probably be some harbinger of crazy bad things. Which we'll see that in the future, probably. But Wanda finally, because at first she didn't believe that she was a witch or she was using magic or like her powers or anything more than something from the stone. And as she sees more and more evidence of what her powers can do and who she is, and it's another thing that she has to accept is part of her, just like her grief. And she finally does take that into herself, and it culminates in her with her fun little red tiara thing, which
headdress.
I didn't know how they were going to do it. I didn't know whether they were going to do it. Like I said before, that thing always looks super goofy to me, but as far as the MCU costume goes, I think they pulled it off. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, I love when you have an explosion of power, you get a wardrobe change. I think that's fantastic. And I dig the outfit. And I was like, all right, I like it because it's not, I
and the hair.
Yeah, and I know
can't skip over the
I know
hair.
she had a problem. I know she had a problem when she got the original outfit back in the day because it was little, like she's the busty one, so she's always got cleavage out. And this felt better.
Yeah, it was basically like a red swimsuit, go-go boots, and a cape.
Yeah, this felt like all right, you're legit. You're an Avenger.
Yeah. And then, because Amanda mentioned earlier that we don't really see a lot of that female representation as far as like merchandise and franchising goes until now, because comics have come a long way, but there still is a bit more to go. Because we discussed this, I think, in the first or second episode of this podcast, that Wanda's powers were nebulous at best, and she was a background character. Like she was kind of a set piece, really, which a lot of female characters were back in the day. Like they weren't viewed as sellers. Like they thought girls didn't read comics, so who would want to see, a strong female superhero? Like they thought they wanted to see big buff dudes kicking butt. So they just kind of put them in skimpy outfits, and they'd occasionally say a quip or two, or they'd be a love interest for another character, and that was about it. But now we are seeing a lot more of that better representation.
And I agree. I love her costume, the way her Scarlet Witch outfit changed. And, she got some really nice, beautiful, like, beach waves going on. Her makeup was done. Like, I was impressed with all of it. But to Aaron's point, that they were still respectful of Elizabeth Olsen's desires or wishes about how she feels dressing, because Scarlet Witch historically is very skimpy. Like she doesn't have much clothing at all. And so for Elizabeth Olsen, they really did a great job of making it conservative for her, but still making it a super cool costume. And I actually think that this works out really well, because now you have like kids, like little girls, they could wear a costume like this and it wouldn't be like, you're not wearing that out of the house.
It's not Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Or even Wonder Woman. Some of Wonder Woman's is a little...
I wouldn't mind seeing 100 Scarlet Witches this Halloween over 100 Harley Quinns, because Jesus, is that costume played out.
I would cry. I would cry if I saw little kids just running around in Scarlet Witch costumes.
I hope real witches that are out there start using Scarlet Witch costumes and casting some spells in the streets, because, like, you can't burn us anymore, bitches. What?
But then you're going to get those hipster witches that are like, we were into witchcraft before it was cool.
I know, yeah. I've been doing it. My grandmother taught me. And then we have Monica, who develops her powers and becomes this whatever she is ultimately in the MCU. And she's going to space to meet with Nick Fury, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
And the Skrulls.
So, people have talked about how the connections are going to work with the show into the movies and whatnot. And I'm really digging this, because they've already set it up so Paul Bettany can return to the cinematic universe in some form as White Vision. Obviously, Scarlet Witch is coming back. Now we introduced a totally new character without having to have a whole movie about her in this series. And now she's going to meet Nick Fury. So we'll be ready to go, whenever that happens, in Captain Marvel 2, most likely. So that I think that's fantastic. I think it's great how they're working this. And I think they can probably do most of the, quick character development in whatever the movies are, and kind of catch people up that didn't watch the shows fairly easily.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's how characters actually got introduced in comics. Is you take an already successful long-running storyline, and then you'd introduce a character in there. They'd team up with that character, or they'd clash, but then they'd realize that they're both on the same side. And then if that character was received well, they'd get their own limited run, and if that did well, they'd get their own series.
Yeah.
So I think we could see a lot more of that where they introduce some like niche or not super popular characters in these limited runs and see how people react to them. And then just go from there and maybe give them their own movie or spin-off or something.
Yeah, and that's what they did with Scarlet Witch when she appeared in X-Men and how they developed her out. But I think to Aaron's point, too, it was really smart because not only are they building this character into this world and the Avengers world, they're tying it. It's not a character that just like, oh, she popped up. Like, she's been around in this MCU world. Like, she's not totally new to it. She was around, she existed, she was part of this agency, and her mom started it. And so there's all of these connections that she has, and the way that they gave her her powers, I thought was really smart and clever. And again, we don't have to do a whole lot of an origin story to be able to throw her in and make her a character to live on her own.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. It makes me sad for the whole DC universe, because they could have been doing this too if they just would have had a better plan originally off the bat. And, you know, you just think of all the worlds that could utilize this. Star Wars, Fast and the Furious, they tried. I mean, it's just amazing to me how well they've managed to make this work. And it's almost seamless at this point.
Well, that's why, like I said, I just, eventually when they're okay with letting out some secrets, I want to see Feige's roadmap, because it's just, I want to know how much is planned, how much is improvised, and when they started doing what, because it's honestly a feat doing what he did with this whole universe. Because a lot of people aren't even going to remember. There's going to be a generation of kids who aren't going to know that there was a time where you had just awful superhero movies that were just so laughably bad. And you're just like, that. I'm glad we don't have that anymore. I'm glad we're at where we're at now. Because, man, I can't do any more Fantastic Fours or movies like that. Green Lanterns, just, oof.
I just heard an interview not too long ago with Ben Affleck, who obviously is Batman, the best Batman, I will say. And he had said how Kevin Feige is by far the best producer in the history of film. Like, he wasn't being grandizing or anything. I mean, he was legitimately laying out, like, here's why. No one else has ever come close to being able to map out something like this, like he has. No one. Everyone has tried, and no one has been able to do it. So that alone, I think, he should get some kind of special Oscar or some kind of special award.
I imagine
it is really phenomenal. It's a feat, like you said.
Well, and the thing that comes to my mind is there are a lot of people in Hollywood who make a lot of money and maybe don't deserve it. He's one of the people who, like, maybe does deserve how much money he has, because he has a very brilliant mind to be able to seamlessly connect all of these dots. It blows your mind when you think about it. Even when they decide to do, like, we're going to go back and do a movie that happened before that, it's like they always knew it was going to happen or something. Even the times where they don't, it works so well.
And this, I thought, was going to be awful. So, I'm not like you, Amanda and Vinny. I mean, I liked it. I don't think it's the best thing I've seen, and I didn't love it. I liked it. And I think it's okay to like things, but I expected to hate it. So because I just didn't like the concept. I am not a sitcom guy. I don't like sitcoms typically. And they did something very creative, very innovative, very original. And it's not the Marvel formula for most of this whole series. And they made it work. That's impressive as hell to me. And it really takes a leader who's got a vision that was unintentional, to take a shot at something like this and still pull it off, because it really does tie into everything. So it's kind of necessary, but he also took a chance, and it really helped build one of their supporting characters into leading status.
And, you know, the other thing he did that DC hasn't bothered to do, at least I don't think they tried to do, he took the time to, like, lay the groundwork, build up these characters, and then finally have them come together in a movie like The Avengers, and then everyone's like, oh, so that's what you can do when you actually plan stuff like this. Like, okay, yeah, do whatever you want, because apparently you know what you're doing. DC saw that and they were only like 1 or 2 characters deep, and they're like, yeah, we can throw Justice League together. It'll be fine. Spoiler alert, it was not fine.
Well, that's a topic for another episode coming soon.
But as fantastic as everything was, we still have some unanswered questions. Like, what happened to White Vision? What exactly is going to happen with Wanda, and now that she's in possession of the Darkhold? What does this mean for the MCU as a whole moving forward?
Are you wanting us to answer those questions?
I mean, yeah, I already talked about most of them, so yeah.
White Vision, going to come back in another movie. I mean, that's how Vision lives on. I feel like this is 9 episodes so they can find a way for Paul Bettany to stay in the MCU, which it worked. I think we're going to see Scarlet Witch do some crazy magic in Doctor Strange 2, and this is going to be a great example. When people say, well, how did she learn how to do that? She couldn't do that in the last movie. You can be like, well, I guess you didn't watch WandaVision, huh? You can be that snooty fan. And what was the last one?
Just the MCU as a whole, like...
Oh, I think it's going to be one interconnected world where everything functions on its own, but there's a lot of interlocking pieces. That's where I think we are now, and that's where it's going to continue to hold true in these series that connect to the movies. I love how, like, Avengers Endgame, Loki disappears. Now Loki's going to have a show. Most likely, what happens when he disappears? And that's just phenomenal to me. I'm like, you just found a loophole in your own movie, or created a loophole,
right,
so you can make a show and we can get their adventure. You just made yourself more money by doing something ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to concur. I believe that White Vision is going to be the Vision as we've known him to be, and Wanda will probably be ecstatic to know that her lover is in fact back, even though she made the full sacrifice, which is not anything new to writing by any means. I mean, Buffy, for example, did that, where Angel was like, he was good, he was bad, he is dead, he's back. But he's a character that is, I don't want to say pivotal to her story, but the two of them work so well, and fans seem to really enjoy the two of them together, that I think they're going to want them to last. But I do think that Wanda is going to not only learn about her powers in the film, but she's going to be doing something that becomes so dangerous that it poses a risk or inherently brings upon a big bad that she and Agatha and all of them are going to have to battle together. And maybe that's my hope. I don't know, but that's what I think might happen. And I'm sure they'll continue, now that they've seen the success of WandaVision, even though it wasn't supposed to be the first one to come out, they're going to continue with this trajectory of like, okay, you get a really, really cool sideshow that ties back into the movies, and we'll create new shows or movies out of those shows because we found a cool character that we can introduce you to. I mean, there's an endless world of stories yet to be told in the Marvel world. And if they bring the mutants into it, it's over. I mean,
they will.
Yeah.
That's
it's
coming.
just going to be huge. So
I don't want that right away, though. I'm already kind of burned out on X-Men because they had like 400 movies at Fox. So
and I like X-Men. So.
Yeah, they've only confirmed as of 2019 that they are going to have something, but there's really nothing even to guesstimate about. So I don't think that'll be for a while. But yeah,
I think they're going to layer it and then, kind of piece. I know there's some rumors. There's going to be the Mutants movie. Well, let's just simmer down. That's probably a rumor.
And I just think time-wise, it will be interesting to see how everything kind of goes together. Because, like Amanda said, this wasn't supposed to be first, but things happen in the real world and it sucks, but whatever. And I think we're not going to see the full culmination of some of the threads that we got from this show until probably next year with the next slew of shows and movies to come out. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a bit of waiting, but I think ultimately it will pay off because, as we said, Feige's a genius and deserves all the praise, and good for him. But yeah, I'm Marvel, yay, super excited.
And they give you at least a conclusive enough story where it's kind of a standalone series. Like, you could watch it and probably mostly understand what's going on, even if you're not a big MCU movie watcher. And the same goes, like, you could end it here and say, okay, she concluded her storyline. Sure, there's some things unanswered, but, you don't necessarily need to know all of that. So, I don't know. Any favorite moments that you guys have from this episode in particular?
Oh, well, can we cover the whole series? Because, I mean, but they're still
sure.
from this episode.
Yeah, you haven't been on every episode, so that's fine.
I have. Well, you guys talk about it. It's going to be from this episode anyway. My favorite moment, I love when she became a Scarlet Witch. I thought that was fantastic and really kind of, I love just the whole, she's surrounded by this this red mist and fog, and then whoosh, her wardrobe changes and there she is in this fantastic outfit. I don't like the headdress, but I like the outfit, so I'll let it go. And I dug the stinger. I really thought the stinger was fun because I actually rewatched it like 3 times going, what is going on? Is she living like Robin Wright's land? She's doing that life?
I said the same thing. I said the exact same thing when I was watching it.
I'm like, what is going on? She's and then she's also up there on apparently a TV screen or something in the cabin or whatever, doing her magic mojo with the Evil Dead book, with the Necronomicon. So I just thought, wow, all right, I dig that. That was a fun little twist because it makes you think. And anytime you get one of these stingers where you think, that really, I love it. My third favorite moment is the townspeople coming to realize they've been basically puppets, meat puppets. Those are my favorites.
Mine were pretty much anything with Catherine Hahn. Again, just gonna reiterate that. Favorite moment 1 through 4, Catherine Hahn. Just anything she did.
Jeez.
She was just so fun to watch. Like being the nosy neighbor character was super fun. And then when she was finally Agatha Harkness, it was just really great. She brought a lot of gravity to the character. It was really, really entertaining. And then actually Vision, watching him, even though it wasn't technically really him, watching him become even more human and kind of work through some things, and at the very end being as human as he could possibly be by shedding a tear. It was just really good writing.
Yeah, I like that.
He's also had some of the best lines in this series. He's had so many good moments, but of course, every moment with Scarlet Witches and Wanda is a favorite of mine. I really appreciated the way that she was presented when she did gain her full understanding, if you will, of who she is, and how it tied back to her experiment at Hydra, and that was what she saw. That was really cool. The moment with Vision, talking to Vision, I loved that philosophical debate that really got you thinking as an audience member, what really defines who Vision is or who we are, or, whatever. I felt like I was on an acid trip for a minute.
You were.
I love the cute, funny moments, like when Jimmy gets the cell phone and then he gets the handcuffs off and he's really cute with his moment. I loved when Darcy came and hit Hayward's car with her little clown bus. Thought that was hilarious. Have fun in prison.
Hey, can you come out here and help me with a problem? And can you be here within the hour? I did like that. That was fun.
Yeah, it was so cute.
I told this guy that you'd definitely be here.
Yeah. It was just really cute. And then I seriously sobbed when Vision and Wanda said their goodbyes to their kids and then said goodbye to each other. And I don't know. I mean, I know that it's been done before, but it was just a really powerful and impactful moment that they had been leading up to throughout 9 episodes and gave us. So overall, and then of course, Agatha she was brilliant every moment she was around. She was hilarious. Even when she's like, your ex and your boyfriend are at the same party. Who are you going to choose, Wanda? So it was a lot of fun. Anything else before we head out?
I like the emotional impact. I thought it was nice to have a Marvel show where I felt like there was some emotion in it, because I do feel like a lot of it I don't get as much as some do, except for the whole Steve Rogers story. So it was nice to get characters I really didn't care that much about. Not that I didn't like Scarlet Witch, but I never really had an attachment to her. And Vision I just didn't care about. And I feel like I have more now. So, and I love Scarlet Witch now, which I didn't before, which now I want to see a movie with Scarlet Witch. So I don't like Doctor Strange. Yeah, I said it. I don't.
Ooh. So
just give me a Scarlet Witch movie.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with that.
I kind of felt the same. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations. I'm like, I'm just going to watch the show because it's Marvel. Hadn't had Marvel anything in a while, and it should be kind of weird, so I'll watch it, sure. And it turned out to be great. Like, I liked a lot of the writing, as I said before, and They did it. I think they did a pretty great job.
And they hit every decade of sitcoms, I think. So good for them. Good on them.
Yeah,
Well done.
they worked that in really well.
And for all the people who were expecting super craziness and are a little butthurt and think that the show's bad now because it wasn't, go read comics. Go to your local comic store. Go through those long, decrepit boxes that are just jammed full of these things. Buy them and then read them.
Oh, you know what else I love? Although I will say, like, the first 3 or 4 episodes, I felt like there's 10 minutes of story and then 20 minutes of filler almost, but it got better as it went on. I do love that Marvel is doing this consistently, or actually Disney's doing this consistently with their shows. They don't have to make them an hour long. 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is. They're just telling the story they want to tell and not throwing a lot of padding in. And I love that. Cobra Kai is another one that does that great. I just like when shows are like, you know what, we don't have to be a whole freaking hour for every episode. Let's do it a little different.
Yeah, they got a whole lot of show done in a short amount of time.
Well, that's going to do it.
5-hour movie.
That's going to do it for this episode of WandaVision AfterHO. You can find The Hollywood Outsider on your favorite podcast app at thehollywoodoutsiders.com and on Patreon at patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Of course, on all of your social media links. Thank you to our current Patreon subscribers and those that are considering. We appreciate you. Remember, the next time that you watch WandaVision or the next Marvel show on your couch, buy popcorn. Everybody have the format?
Yep.
What's a format?
What's that? Your favorite
got it.
thing?
I mean,
I got it.
this is probably the first week I've looked at it.
Ugh, don't tell me that. That's so rude.
You've done pretty good then, man.
Thanks.
All right. He takes his own notes. He just doesn't mesh them into the format.
That's fine. Well, he seems like he knows what he's talking about. That's what matters.
Need to get
The greatest magic trick in this entire show. The illusion of I know what I'm talking about.